All right, so here is PAX TC, or not TCG, Master Duel, World Championship, World Finals, Crystron deck list. And you can see, again, it is pretty heavily teched out to beat one deck in particular, and that is Malice. So, we're gonna change a few things up, but for the most part, we are taking the same philosophies and the same ideas into the deck building and running with it. So let's take a look at the actual list that we are playing, which is this. It is pretty much card for card the same thing with two changes. One, instead of playing Chaos Hunter and instead of playing Meowls, we are instead choosing to play the more generally applicable Mulch Army in Fool Loss, and instead of playing, again, Chaos Hunter, we're instead playing Imperm. This could be a myriad of other tech cards. Imperm just happened to be the one that I chose. This could be Droll, this could be Nibiru, this could be Valor, this could be anything under the sun, right? Honestly, I do think Valor would fit better here. This is just what I happen to choose. So there's that. If you're wondering why Valor, one, it's a monster, which plays a little bit more into the Wedju Temple, which is a little bit more advantageous, but it also is something that you can draw into even with your field full, off of something like a Fool Loss or like a Maxi or something like that, in order to use it, which is a little bit more advantageous as well. So there's that. But more or less, the rest of the deck is pretty much card for card. So let's do the quick explanation of the deck and what it is aiming to do. If you don't know, Crystron is a deck that uses a bunch of monsters in order to go into, or a bunch of machine monsters in order to go into specifically things like synchro monsters that are pretty powerful. Things like F.A. Dawn Dragster, Infinity, etc. Right? So pair that alongside the Millennium monsters, which can send them to the graveyard effectively. It just makes sense. You'll see in the gameplay. But here we have the Millennium engine, which is pretty standard, except for the fact that we're playing actually 3 Temple. Now, why are we playing 3 Temple? Because actually, the Crystrons are pretty solid, just being additional monsters that you can equip, or not equip, but place into this Spell and Trap card zone for the Wedju Temple, which means you get the Millennium stuff and you get the Crystron stuff online. Both, things like Smiger, Fistfern, Sulfanier, Sulfador, all like want to be in the grave, which means that putting them into the grave via the Wedju Temple into the Doomed Dragon is very nice. So that's why we're playing 3 of that. However, the rest is pretty simple. The 3 Sengajin and the 1 Golem. As for the rest of the cards, we are playing a smaller package, but not too much, for the Crystron stuff. We're playing 1 Citri and 2 Tristoros as our only tuners. However, these are very easy to get to, both of them. We're also playing, of course, 3 Smiger, which is our best normal summon, because you can normal summon it and then immediately link off into Clockwork Knight, which can then grab you Inclusion and do the full combo from there. Very useful. On top of that, we're also playing the 1 Fistfern as an additional way to, get more bodies and get this guy, which is Sulfanier. Sulfanier discards a card in order to special summon itself and then pop a guy. When destroyed, it special summons from deck, meaning you can special summon it and then pop itself and then special summon from deck. It's pretty solid. So there's that. We also have, of course, 3 Sulfador, which just pops a Crystron in order to special summon itself, and on summon, whether normal or special, it can dump 2 Crystrons, which is, again, pretty solid. We're playing a 3 Inclusion as well, of course, because banishing it summons a guy from grave, which is very nice, and activating it adds a guy. So it does the full combo by itself. You go normal summon Inclusion, or activate Inclusion, grab up Sulfador, pop the Inclusion, dump 2 off of the Inclusion, and you're off to the races. Pretty solid. And then 1 Cluster. Cluster is extremely good in this deck, just across the board. It's also what helps you play around a lot of decks that you wouldn't normally. Anything that, is playing a Floodgate, or anything that, slows you down, just any time that you can get into Cluster, it's such a masterpiece of a card in a grind game. Just allowing you to put cards back and pop additional cards your opponent controls is very, very solid. We're also playing, of course, 1 Foolish Burial to get our combos started as well. As for the non-engine, we are playing 2 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Fool Loss, 2 Called By, the 3 Imperm and 3 Lancia, and then 1 Ghost Bell. Ghost Bell is actually just pretty decent overall, so that's why we're playing it. As for the extra deck, it's pretty simple. We are playing Doomed Dragon and Zombie Vampire for the Millennium stuff, and then a bunch of synchros. We're playing Excel Synchron, which is used in tandem with FA Dawn Dragster to go into Baron, which is pretty nice. And you can summon this off of either a Citri or a Tristaros, both of which are very useful, so there you go. On top of that, we're playing Sam D. Why are we playing this card? If you get Nibiru, you can summon this guy off of a Tristaros, and then he comes back, which is pretty nice, because then you can pop him with Tristaros to summon 2 guys from deck, which is, again, very, very solid. So, yeah, there you go. If it leaves the field by opponent's card effect, he comes back. Also, you could potentially target a different machine, which is something of note as well. We're also playing, of course, 2 FA Dawn Dragsters. Yes, we are playing 2. Is it important to play 2? Not necessarily, but we are playing 2 instead. This is pretty solid. It's just a non-hard once per turn spell trap negate. It reduces its level by 2 to become, or to negate a spell trap, which is again very solid. So if you can summon 2, which is not too difficult, especially during the opponent's turn, you can summon them off of things like Citri or Tristaros. You then have the ability to negate 2 spells and traps, which is, again, very solid against things like Malice with the Field Spell and with Allure of Darkness and what have you. It's good against Memento. It's good against Ryziel even, because just negating spells and traps is very solid. So it's never really bad. So there's that. We also have 2 Esqueletas, which is very nice. On Synchro Summon, adds back a Crystron card, and if it's destroyed, summons a Crystron. We have the the Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, as well as the Baron, for obvious reasons, right? And then 1 Quarion, which banishes 3 monsters from field or grave on summon. However, it requires 2 tuners. As for the Xyz, we're playing the Nova as well as Infinity, just an Omni Negate. And then we are playing 1 Clockwork Knight, as previously mentioned. You can normal summon the Smiger and link it off. And then, of course, 1 SP Little Knight. This is technically part of the part of the combo, but it's kind of hard to get into if you are interrupted in any capacity. So there's that. But yeah, let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performs. Alrighty, here we are going first. Let's see what we can accomplish here. First and foremost, we can see that we have Golem in hand, so we're going to start off there with that. We're going to activate the effect. We're going to special summon itself. My opponent is going to activate the Ash, and I'm going to, of course, call by this because I need this guy on field. If I don't, we are kind of cooked. So we're going to special summon out the Golem here, and we're going to search out the Wedgie Temple, and Droll and Lockbird comes down. Now, this is one of the advantages of the Crystron engine, which is that it can play very easily around Droll. Let me show you. So we're going to normal summon the Sulfador, which seems a bit strange. Our hand is kind of weak here, but alas, we still have the ability to do what we need here. So we're going to go for the normal summon the Sulfador, specifically sending Inclusion as well as Tristaros. So we're going to special summon out the Tristaros, and then we're going to synchro summon it into Esqueletus. Esqueletus is going to add back the Inclusion for later use, and Tristaros is going to pop the Esqueletus to special summon 2 from deck. We're going to special summon an additional guy off of the Esqueletus, and from here we are going to use the Sulfador to pop Sulfaneer, which will summon another Sulfador, and then summon itself, popping the field spell. From here, we can go into Nova, and then into Infinity, and we can also Synchro Summon into Dragster. So we have Omni Negate, we have Spell Trap Negate, we have Tristaros, which can go into another Omni Negate, because we can summon a 3 after using Dragster to go into Excel, and Excel can then go into, with the FA Dawn Dragster, into Baron. And then we also have, of course, the 2 hand traps in our hand as well. So, again, a round Droll on top of that. So my opponent is going to activate the Imperm. I'm going to then activate Max C, because I want them to kind of interact on this open board state so that I can activate the Tristaros and go into Baron before they have the chance to do anything. However, they don't have anything there, so out comes the Allure of Darkness, and at this point we can just chain, and the game is pretty much over. Malice be damned, it doesn't matter. We get to go into pretty much an Omni Negate for everything there, so they didn't really stand a chance. Good game. Alrighty, here we are going second. However, our hand is pretty good. Maxi Imperm seems pretty... Well, forget what I said previously about our hand being good. Let's see what... Well, I guess we're doing nothing this turn. However, seeing the anti-spell fragrance doesn't necessarily concern me too much, given the fact that my opponent just flips up the anti-spell. I think this is going to be a long game, and we can actually set these and do pretty well with them. So I'm not too concerned. Crystron's actually pretty good in the grind game, so let's show you what we can do. My opponent's going to maxi there, and I'm just going to special summon Tristaros and pass the turn. They're going to activate their effect here, and I forget that I'm under maxi, and I go into FA Dawn Dragster here. But out comes the Conquistador. It's Eldritch, apparently. I also don't maxi myself, because, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. Anyway, they did draw Eldritch, so... Anyway, I'm going to max C here, and they're just going to elect to put Eldritch in hand and not summon him. Now, I think this is a genuinely big mistake from my opponent. Just, yes, I would get a draw I would get a draw if they put Eldritch onto the field via its effect. However, they would also get a 3,500 attack point monster that also has the ability to attack for a set amount of damage, which puts me on a massively increased clock, and is indestructible, which is just generally good. On top of that, it also is a way to play around things like Ash Blossom or what have you that I could potentially draw for a turn, because you just have Eldritch already on field. So, yeah. I get, giving a draw when I could just not, especially because they already have the ability to just put another Eldritch on field via this guy. I still think it's just the correct play. But alas, they thought otherwise. That's fine. We're going to go for the Wedju Temple here, which allows us to then activate our guy in order to go into the Smiter. They don't chain anything there. They're just like, yeah, that's fine. I don't know why they do this, because now I get to go for the Doom Dragon. And we get to go Doom Dragon, put his ass into the back row, and they're going to pop my field spell, which is fine. I'm going to go Inclusion, which they chain mistake. Well, we'll just go combat here and pass the turn. It's not a whole lot that I can do about this, but yeah. Here's big Doom Dragon. They're going to go and send... Sure. They send the card that actually has a use in the graveyard, but alas... Sure, bud. They are going to walk over the Doom Dragon, so I guess that makes sense, but why would you not send, like, one of the unknowns, I guess? Okay, whatever. They set the Hakero and set an additional card and pass the turn. I'm like, that's fine. And then I see why they did that the way that they did. Yeah, sending Imperial Iron, or activating Imperial Iron Wall. Also, why are they playing this card? This card is just, like, bad in Eldritch. It's fine. We draw another Inclusion, because of course we do. There's not a whole lot that I can do here. I am going to activate the Imperm, though, because it allows me to use Inclusion, that we already had set, in order to grab a Cluster, which Cluster can actually contest things. We also do have the Sulfaneer here, and we're just going to summon it and then pop a card, pass the turn. Now, notably, the Crystron monsters are, actually good cards, because they activate if they are destroyed by battle or card effect. So, we'll see if my opponent actually understands that. Alas, they're going to send an additional card that they can't use because of their own Floodgate. But that's fine. We're going to go and summon the Citri here, and then we're going to Reborn in order to go into a Skeletas. Now, Citri, when it uses a material as Synchro Material, or when it activates its effect, it actually banishes the Synchro Material, generally. But we can't do that because of Imperial Iron Wall, so they get to go into the grave. We also get to summon a Skeletas here, which grabs us the Tristaros. They're going to, of course, crash here, which means that we can just bring him back. Here's a guy. And then they go into Varudras. This is their fatal mistake. This card is going to kill them. Smile. Anyway, by the way, you may have noticed, I can literally just walk over this guy. I don't think we read this card. That's fine. We draw Sengagen, which is cool. I'm going to normal summon the Tristaros, so then we're going to go for the Sengagen here. They're going to activate the effect of Rivalry of Warlords, and of course, goes in match to pair with it. Who, baby? Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 floodgates on the opponent's side of the field? Do you know what's funny about this? It actually doesn't matter. I still have the ability to summon a guy here. I just make a Skeletas too. And guess what? It stacks. They are going to elect to negate and destroy. However, that's fine because we're going to actually activate our own cluster here and pop the two cards that matter the most to us, which was the Attribute and the Banishment. So now we actually get to play the game. We're going to go for the Tristaros here. We're going to pop our Synchro Summoned Monster, which allows us to summon a whole bunch of guys. And then we're going to summon out the Citri. We're going to also then activate the Inclusion, banishing it in order to bring back that Skeletas. And at this point, the game is pretty much over because we get to go to Quarion, and the game is literally over. We get to banish both Eldritches, which, by the way, they were using the good artwork, the alt art. You love to see it, Daddy Eldritch. And we also get to banish the Varudras off of the Quarion. And at this point, we have 26, 26, and 3k, which is slightly over lethal. Good game. Alright, here we are once again, going second. You hate to see it, but that's fine. We drew Lancia, and it's not going to matter. Fabled. I have no idea what Fabled does. Well, let's see. My opponent's gonna do stuff. They pitch two cards, which are not Fables, so I don't know. Maybe we're okay. They're gonna pitch another guy in order to go into Gamagin and then activate the effect of Gamagin. I'm gonna activate Lancia here. I don't think it does anything, but at the very least, I'm gonna activate it. I don't know. I guess I'm just playing into triple attack, but we'll see what my opponent does. Of course, they go into the Fiendsmith stuff. It does make sense to actually play the Fiendsmith stuff. There are a whole bunch of light fiends, so sure. Out comes the sequence into Lacrima into... What are we doing here? I'm very confused as to what we're doing here. Because they go into the Agnum Day. They're going to then special summon back the Lacrima with the Agnum Day. They're also going to equip with that as well. Oh, okay. That makes a little bit more sense. Out comes Baron, and... Is that it? Okay, they drew a card. They pitched Called By the way. They elected to not keep Called By as opposed to keeping the card. Oh, sure. That's fine. Anyway, we normal summon the Tristaros, which immediately punishes our opponent for doing anything. But however... Alright, they're going to yoink our guy. That's fine. We're going to go for Inclusion, and... Oh! That makes sense. I also probably would have kept the Ash Blossom there. However, it doesn't matter because we drew the Sulfenir. So we still get to do the full combo here. We're going to go Sulfenir into Sulfenir. They're going to elect to pop, or not pop, with the trap that I genuinely did not forget in the grave. True. It doesn't matter. We go for the Sulfador. We're going to send 2 here, and at this point, again, it doesn't matter that they sent a guy. We just get to go for the Crystron here. We're going to grab the Tristaros. It's just a guy, pretty much. And then we go for the Smiger, grab a Cluster. And now we can go Inclusion to special summon out the Sulfenir. Here we can go for the Sulfador as well, special summon itself out, and go into Nova. Now, if you don't know, Infinity is not just an Omni-Negate. It also yoinks Dash in Mine. So we get to walk over the field, we still have Cluster, we have the Omni-Negate, and we basically kill them here. I know exactly one card that does anything at this point, because they decided to shuffle back the Engraver, and so it's just this guy, Engrave. Which means they have to top deck something that actually gets them not just started, but does the line that can beat Cluster, because I'm just going to negate this guy. If you don't know, he has the ability to just banish himself, return himself from the grave in order to add back a Fabled from grave, which turns on both of these, so we just can't allow that. So again, they're going to activate the effect, I'm just going to negate, and they concede there, realizing that, yeah, they didn't top deck well enough for that. Good game. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, this deck is still pretty solid. I think a big benefit to this deck is that it does play around a lot of common hand traps. Most notably, it plays around specifically Droll, which is very, very nice. I think a lot of Malice players should be and will be playing Droll in their main deck because it is an answer to things like Maxi and Fool Loss and what have you. On top of that, Crystron is just a very solid deck. Being able to put out things like Double Dragster, being able to put out things like Infinity and Baron and what have you is just good. Right now, having the ability to stop the opponent from doing things, just in general, is very, very strong. Just putting a stop button, I guess, for lack of a better term, putting a just big old stop sign on the opponent's turn is pretty solid. On top of that, Cluster is just a powerhouse of a card in and of itself. Being able to pop things like the field spell from Crystron, or not Crystron, from Ryzeal, being able to like remove Malice monsters from the field in order to, you know, not allow them to be used as link material, etc., etc. There's a ton of really great uses for Cluster, and there always will be, right? Just being able to like pop cards is always advantageous. On top of that, being able to pop multiple cards because you have a Crystron Synchro monster is also very strong. So all in all, it does make sense, and it is still a very, very solid deck. The fact that only one player ended up playing Crystron at Worlds is crazy to think about, especially when Tatsuku decided instead to play Gimmick Puppet. Why did we do that? Anyway, I think Crystron's a great choice, and it did pretty well for them as well. So that's gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope that you guys did enjoy. If you did, a like is very much appreciated, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye.